big boss that's special. It ain't no game, but they saying welcome to the second level. Second level gaming. Second level.
What's up, guys? Welcome back to the official Level 2 podcast, episode 27. My name's Keegan. I'm one half Level 2 Gamers, hanging out with my buddy Tom, the other half Level 2 Gamers. How you doing today, Tom?
I'm fine, man. I'm having a good day today. How are you?
I'm good. We stayed up a little late last night. We were recording a podcast with some friends.
Another podcast.
That hopefully will be out by the time this comes out.
We'll be recording in a 24-hour period.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Less than 24-hour period.
Yeah.
So, casual hour.
Yeah, the Casual Hour guys invited us over. The Casual Hour, they're friends of ours. We work in similar circumstances, and they do a kind of just a casual gaming chat podcast where they do it really late at night. Everyone's kind of half sleepy. It's just like it's almost like an existential campfire discussion.
It's like the opposite of what we are.
Yeah, it's a lot more measured, a lot less just rando. Keegan was subdued even by the nature, I think, of everyone else there. It was so.
I tried to be.
Yeah, he did a great job. You'll be proud of him. Didn't interrupt too much. But we'll put it up on our podcast section. It'll only be audio only, so it'll only be on the Level 2 podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, whatever. So you can hear it. Because it was weird because we got interviewed, which is not something I'm accustomed to. I've
been interviewed before, but that's the first time I've been interviewed for Level 2.
Yeah.
So that was a bit weird, and it's funny because like some of the answers we gave, to give you an idea, like one of the questions was, how did we come up with the name? And we're like, well, we got a cool story and we got a not so cool story. We got the real story and the one we tell everybody.
It was fun being able to kind of let some of those little inside things out, and the quickfire round was fun as well when they were just asking us like real quick questions. It
made me go There's a few of them.
I kind of treated it like a Rorschach test where you're supposed to just say like the first thing right away, and I was like, I didn't, so anything could have come out of my mouth at that point, but I was just throwing them out there. But it was a good time. We had a great time. Thanks to Johnny and Bobby for letting us join them. We will return the favor because I understand that those gentlemen have the same condition you do, which is that they cannot play horror games, at least not successfully, without being terrified. And as the, I suppose, only remaining horror aficionado of Level 2, I'm going to force Johnny and Bobby to play some horror games because they will actually do it. Keegan has done it once and decided never to do it again, and at least he gave it a shot. But I don't think Johnny and Bobby know what they got in store for when they get into Resident Evil 7 VR, so we'll see.
So, yeah. But this is the Level 2 podcast. We are a weekly podcast show that comes out every Wednesday morning in Central Standard Time, or technically Tuesday night if you are looking it up on the
Tuesday night if you're audio apps. Wednesday morning if you're video.
We do news, game spotlights, and then a topic of conversation, which I don't think we came up with topic of conversation, so we'll figure it out when we get there. But let's get into the news, Tom. This news is... For once, news broke before we recorded. Let's start with that, because usually it's after we record.
Yeah, no, this was we were ahead of the game on this one.
So there's a couple things, 2 Destiny things, and then 2 other game things, and a third announcement. I don't want to say what the other game is yet, so I don't want to break hearts.
Well done.
So, first thing about Destiny 2. Destiny 2 developer, a.k.a. Bungie, has no plans for a Nintendo Switch port.
Who didn't see that coming, though?
Talking with IGN, project lead Mark Noseworthy, which is an awesome name, stated that the developer isn't working on a port and doesn't think that the game would work on Switch. I think it's pretty unrealistic given we're an online-only game, right? He said, the Switch is incredible. I love the console, but in terms of where it's at, I don't want to leave anyone with the possibility of like, it's like a thing we'll consider, but maybe next year. There's no plans right now for Switch. Period.
Do you think that's almost entirely that? It sounds like he's blaming the friend code thing.
Kind of. I think also the infrastructure for online for Switch is not for Nintendo is not nearly as solid as Microsoft and Xbox, because they're bringing it to PC, which, as you know, well, you don't know, but PC Online is very live and well.
The other thing that makes me wonder, as far as not bringing it to the Switch, I believe is tied into your next bit of news. So I won't say it, but I think that might be the real reason.
Well, let's go on to it.
Go ahead.
So the next bit of news is the PS4 Pro could not run the game at 60 frames per second at 4K 60.
I mean, 4K 60 is a big ask, but the Pro, you would think, they've been touting it for some time now. We know the Scorpio's stats are better. We know that Xbox has a head up here. And that I got to say that hurts my feelings a little bit.
Destiny 2 will run at a 4K resolution on PS4 Pro, but will be locked at 30 frames per second because of CPU constraints. Speaking with IGN, game director Luke Smith confirmed that it will not run at 60 frames on the Pro. I don't want people to continue to hope we're going to be matter of fact about that stuff. The Pro is super powerful, but it could not run our game at 60 frames per second, he added. Our game is this rich physics simulation with collisions and players, networking, etc. It couldn't run, not enough horsepower there yet. Project lead, Mark Noseworthy again, explained that while the GPU was power enough to render at 4K, the CPU was to blame for the lower frame rate. So it'll be interesting to see with Scorpio. Obviously, they got asked, like, so Scorpio, and they're like, we can't tell you. By the way, the interview was with IGN's Destiny podcast. So these guys knew what they were getting into.
Right. I'm just wondering, like, I don't know. Like, is it really that the PS4 Pro is lackluster, or is it that Destiny 2 is actually that fucking dense of a game?
I think the PS4 Pro is lackluster. I've said it from the get-go that I feel like it was a half-baked thing, and I'm going to stand behind that. I think it's good, and it adds above the PS4, but I still don't think it was a true jump. What would you say
if the Scorpio turns out not to be able to run it, though?
If the Scorpio doesn't turn out, I think Scorpio will, but if it doesn't, then I would then blame
Bungie. Still making your game so fucking good, Bungie.
It depends.
What do you mean?
Because if Destiny's the only one that can't, then yes. But if nothing else can, then I'm going to blame hardware somewhere else.
Yeah.
So you can't blame
Destiny.
Well,
so far, as far as I know, this is the only game developers to come out and say our game can't run as high as we would like on this machine, on this particular.
And Microsoft,
to be able to do this machine.
Speaking of Scorpio, Microsoft came out and said it's up to developers to do the frame rates for the games.
Optimization, yeah.
Determine whether they want 60 or 30. And it was quite interesting. I can't remember who it was, but the developer came out and said, for an online game, the question is, since the Xbox One and One S can't run it at 60, do you still support 60? Because that's an advantage for somebody on a Pro or on the Scorpio. So like it's one of those things like, how do you handle that? Is that why they lock it? That kind of thing. So they came out and said it just won't run on there. Which playing Destiny, Destiny's a huge game. It's got a lot of things in it, so it doesn't surprise me at all. I think, though, Scorpio would be able to run it. The question is, will it run it because of online? I think 60 frame per second games will mainly be single-player experiences because of where we're at with everything's got to work on everything else. Right. That's the downside to this beyond generations that we're in right now, where it's like it's got to work on the Xbox.
The fact that Destiny 2 is always online means you don't have that even ability to try it in 60 frames per second, because no matter where you are, there's going to be other people. Yeah.
So it's one of those things where, like, when they said this, I wasn't shocked. It didn't really surprise me because I've always thought the Pro is, again, it's more powerful than PS4, but I always thought it was underpowered for. A lot of it's going to come down to price point for Scorpio. Scorpio comes out and they're $400 for the specs they have. I don't think they will be, but that would be the perfect situation for them. I think they would completely blow Sony out of the water with that. So it doesn't surprise me. It's very interesting that they came out and said it so bluntly. That's what kind of got me. It was like, oh yeah, but it's also good because they don't want to give the runaround, because think about Destiny 1 with all the things they said that didn't end up happening.
That's one thing I will say for good old Noseworthy is that at least he is being honest. He's being brutally honest.
And Luke Smith.
Yeah, I can't forget Luke Smith.
Yeah, Luke Smith.
And they're coming out and they are being honest from the get-go, because Destiny 1, there was not a whole lot of honesty there when they released that game.
I think there was. I think it just changed a lot with shakeups.
But no, when they were talking about the game, they were like, oh, it's going to be this, and this, and then by the time it came out, it wasn't any of that. So I think, to that extent. But I think it's good to see them being honest about it. I said it hurts me a little bit but honestly, like, Destiny 2 is not something I'm personally going to play anyway. So as long as it's just one of those things, like this particular game is just crazy physics, it has to be online all the time, whatever, I won't be too fussed about it. But it's interesting as a benchmark.
I don't think the next Elder Scrolls will be 60 either. Again, we'll see, but I think I'm a firm believer the PS4 Pro can run 4K, but 30 was not designed for 4K 60. That's just my thought, because running 4K alone is a lot of CPU power.
Right.
We found out with your laptop when I plugged in the SD or the HD60S, it's like you need 4 cores to run this, just to capture 1080p 60. So imagine 4K 60, beast of a machine. So
I honestly think I would rather like it, well, here we go. Here's going to be our question later, because I just thought of it in the work. What is more important, 4K or 60 frames?
Cool.
Don't answer it yet.
I wasn't.
I'm gonna write that down before
Write
we
that down.
forget it.
So
4K
stick
versus-
around later for the question.
That's gonna be our bonus
our question.
level, as decided by me now.
Cool. Next bit of news is there's a couple of things that were announced and or teased.
Yes.
First thing is Far Cry 5 teaser trailer welcomes you to Montana. Welcome to Hope County.
Welcome to Montana.
I was at
that the
work.
accent?
No,
Okay.
not even close. I was at work when we found out, and Jordan kind of said, "Hey, have you seen the teaser?" Because it just had dropped, and apparently he was on lunch and or not working and checking his phone, one of the two. And I was like, "No," but then I looked it up, and I was like, "Okay." So somebody who has not played, I played Far Cry 4 a little bit, and I played Primal when we played. Well, I watched Primal.
It's a bad example of a Far Cry game.
Yeah. What is your thought of moving it to Montana? Because when I think of Far Cry, I think of the Middle East, because that's where a majority of them have been set that I've seen. But is a Far Cry game the hunting, the aspects, all that kind of stuff?
Like the first one was a Pacific island, the second one was Africa, the third one was again I think a Pacific island, and the fourth one was like a Asian place. So I'd say Far East, but not necessarily middle. But my thoughts are this. I mean, you called it a little while back, and you were saying is supposedly it's going to be a Wild West game.
Yeah, so that to harken back, that screenshot we talked about, I think 2 or 3 weeks ago. I don't know where it is at this point. The Red Dead leak. By the way, the episode just went live from Bobby P's.
Oh, cool.
So we'll give you the link.
Yeah.
But that Red Dead leak was actually a Far Cry leak. Been confirmed from Ubisoft saying no, that was us, which is interesting. That people like, if it was Red Dead, people are like, oh my god, this is super hype. But now that it's Far Cry, are they still as hyped because it's not Red Dead?
Well, the thing is, it looked like a third-person shot. It didn't look like an FPS. But I suppose if you're
you just take the
looking
camera
at
out.
a character, then yeah, it makes sense. I will say the teaser trailer for Far Cry 5 it's done very, very well. But
there's
I'm
5
mad
segments.
there's no like.
Well, it's a teaser trailer. It's not a gameplay
but it's
trailer.
all live action. Like the teaser trailer should have like a bit of CG from the game.
So the way we've talked about this before, but the way trailers tend to work is you do the teaser trailer, which is usually live action and or some sort of story based cinematic. You then do a gameplay trailer when you announce the game. So I'm guessing
I would prefer the cinematic to the live action. Is what I'm saying. Like as far as like if you're gonna tease it with some in-game footage CGI as opposed to like some acting.
Yeah, I like the way they did it because it shows you where it's going to be.
I don't hate it. If it was for a movie, I'd be like, cool, or a TV show. But I think because it's a game, I kind of want to see at least a little bit of something.
Yeah.
Like even like with the very first Far Cry 3 like teasers and trailers and stuff, it was just Voss. I said Van last time, by the way, when we talked about this. Is Voss. I have since remembered. But Voss does this kind of interesting speech about the definition of insanity or whatever, and he just sits there and tells you about it. And that became this kind of almost a meme, of Voss telling you about the definition of insanity. But it was just CGI, but it was so well done, and it was so kind of haunting that everyone was like, ooh, who is this guy? Like, and you kind of get more intrigued by it. These teasers, these live-action teasers, as an example of one of them, there's a guy running across an open field, and then he gets shot in the back of the head. And you're like... And then it's like, welcome to Hope County, Montana. And like, I think it's cheeky, and I like that it's cheeky.
Did you notice the dead body in the river?
No, I didn't.
There's a dead body in the river.
Interesting.
That floats down.
But it's just, it's cheeky. It's interesting. I will.
It grabbed your attention.
Skeptical.
It did. I
Yeah.
mean, that's what a teaser's there to do. Again,
but why are we making trailers for trailers anyway?
Because you got to start the hype chamber. So not to get too much into marketing, but the way marketing works essentially is you do the first trailer, you get people excited about the product. Then you do the second trailer that has more details specifically about that product, and then you get people even more hyped. So you don't want to give too much initially, but you want to get them talking about your game. Like right now, we're talking about this because it was revealed.
That's true.
If they waited to E3 or whenever it was.
Do you think this means E3 is going to have the official trailer or something close to it?
They said they're going to have more information later this year.
Yeah, E3.
So they did not confirm a date, but
I would say
E3,
that's exactly what we can expect. I would think. The question is who nabs it. I mean, obviously, Ubi are going to want to have it in their section, but usually, like one of the big two will also have some live gameplay. Like they'll have like the trailer at Ubi, and then the live gameplay will be like one of the two big ones. So that'll be interesting. But but like Wild West Montana, what are you feeling about the vibe there?
I think it's good. I think leaning into the next bit of news that it actually, if it comes out this year, might have just saved its own butt because
yes, the famous
Red Dead Redemption was delayed till spring 2018, which doesn't surprise me, but it does at the same time. Like, Rockstar, I've always been like, okay, cool, but Rockstar, they're making good shit.
Rockstar delays shit a lot.
So, Far Cry, if it came out at the same time Red Dead would destroy it. Granted, there's 2 different games, but they're the same, so they're similar enough. I think you would divide the audience somewhere.
Well, there's a plus and a minus to that, though, because sometimes when you finish a game, don't you want to play a game that's similar?
No.
You don't?
No.
Ever?
Usually
I do.
Usually on a Switch.
I'll finish a game and I'll be like, like we were talking about with the podcast last night. Like, I'll finish a JRPG and then I'll be like, I kind of want to do another JRPG, because I'm in the mood for it. So if I go through like Red Dead, I could see Far Cry as being a nice little kind of like a warm down session from Red Dead.
So Paragon and Overwatch and what was the other one that came out at the same time that are similar?
Paladins.
Call of Duty, Titanfall, and Battlefield 1 didn't interfere with each other?
Well, as far as releases, sure, but like in terms of gamers playing them, I think that a lot of people that played Titanfall also played Call of Duty or also played Overwatch. Like there was a lot of like, I'm in the mood for this style of a game, because I tend to stick to a similar style of a game over and again, this is just personal, but I tend to stick to a similar style of game over and over again, and then I'll like pepper in some other ones. So there's often times when, like, if it's a really good game, especially, like, let's say I play this perfect ocean horror, right? And you know what I feel about ocean horror. So I play this perfect ocean horror, I'm like, man, I want some more ocean horror. Just like when I watch movies.
I don't.
I watch Alien 1, I want to see Alien 2.
I'm the opposite.
Alien 3,
I'm one of those things like, so as we know, last year Division was my game for the longest time, and I loved the Division. I then hopped into Elder Scrolls. Complete change. I mean, it's still, I guess, technically an RPG, but to me, it's a whole different game because you're using magic and stuff like that.
But did Ghost Recon scratch your Division itch for a bit?
Not as much as I wanted it to.
But you did want it to.
I wanted it to be good, yes.
There you go.
But
so it's kind of like, you're like, I love the Division. This looks kind of the same. You know what I mean? Like that's kind of what I'm getting at. But
yeah.
Either way, it's shitty that they delayed it, but also
it's probably
looking at what we can see here, which you guys may or may not have seen by now, which are the officially leaked screenshots.
There are incredible new screen. Ooh, that's a nice big one.
Absolutely beautiful.
And these are reportedly in game. So
it's really high.
Polygon has them. Polygon's one who I believe broke the story, but they have them on their website, all of them. But they are gorgeous looking. It's funny because, like, I don't think of GTA 5 because I play GTA Online as being a pretty game. I think of it being a dense game. Like, it's not an ugly game by stretch of the imagination, but I don't put it on the same level as, like, when I looked at Uncharted 4, I was blown away by it. When I looked at Star Wars, I was blown away by the way it looked. These are amazing looking in their high fidelity, but it'll be interesting to see kind of, when I think of Rockstar games, I think more density than I do.
Well, I think the difference being here is that with a GTA style game, you have an awful lot of suburban areas, like the entire game. I mean, obviously there's a lot of hillsides and stuff, but a lot of the game is literally like just dense with people and populations and cities and cars and all this kind of stuff. Red Dead, just because of the nature of being a Western game, means that the settlements are not very big. They're few and far between. There's lots of open land. There's a lot more space. So I think with some of that extra space, maybe they could tweak the graphics up a touch.
Yeah, and they've got a shot of the train. I was looking, they have a shot of a town here. I was trying to see
that town picture's my favorite.
If there's any
with
signs
the back
or anything.
Of whoever is replacing Marston. Like, that's a beautiful shot.
I really hope this has got a Red Dead Online, kind of like GTA Online. Then I would get into it. If it doesn't, then I probably won't play it.
The last one had one. It will.
And then one that I actually didn't pull up here, but I just remembered happened. South Park, The Fractured Butthole.
Didn't get delayed, did it?
Delayed, coming out between now and March 31st, 2018.
Ugh.
So that's the second time it's been delayed. So here's the story. David pre-ordered that game back when it was supposed to come out last year. And when you pre-ordered the game, you got Stick of Truth for free.
I remember that.
He then got refunded for the game because it got delayed, and Sony was like, sorry. And Sony never does refunds on their games, but they did. But he got to keep Stick of Truth for free, which is kind of cool. But now it's being delayed to 2000. And Stick of Truth got delayed plenty of times, but you would think they would now have a better understanding because it's, I don't want to say it's the same game, but it's the same mechanics with a few things added to it.
Do you think it's because of the schedule of Trey and Matt and because they like to be so hands-on with this sort of thing? Because it's not like it's just the development studio working on this. Trey and Matt, when they get into something, they get really into it. Like with the Book
they want to
of
make sure it's got the South Park stamp of
exactly.
Stamp of
like a lot of people that license out a name will just kind of throw it out there and be like, all right, do something, and we'll check a box when it's done if we think it's okay or serviceable. But Trey and Matt want to be a part of that. They want to,
and that's why I think Stick of Truth did so well because it felt like an extended South Park episode. Right. I never finished it, but I played probably close to 15 hours
It was
into
a really good game.
It was.
Yeah.
It was the first game they had to map out South Park, like as a true map.
Yeah.
So it was. It sucks that it happens again. I'm always for game delays, but once you start doing it 2-3 times, that's when it starts becoming more of, okay, you got to fix something versus this is potentially scary.
Is there something going on?
Yeah.
Did someone leave the team?
Yeah.
You start asking questions.
Yeah. Versus like if there's just the one delay, it's like Uncharted got delayed to, what was it, April from its
Something
original
like
launch
that,
date, and it's like, cool, they need a couple more months.
The other thing that's interesting about that Red Dead news, though, is that they delayed it until spring, correct? So
Which is supposed to come. It was supposed to come out fall of this year.
So the original Red Dead Redemption, the second one, not Revolver Redemption, also came out in it came out in summer, really early summer. And it was interesting because, everyone in the games industry kind of knows that October and November time is the time
which is
to
now
release your
changing
game, because lots of people, they all try and jump on the holiday market basically, but it's also such a crowded time. Like usually now January and February are pretty busy because those are all the games that got delayed from October and November. I don't think there's a downtime anymore to games. I think there still is a little bit of a summer lull,
I think before E3 there's going to be a little bit.
Yeah.
But I still think the big lull is like the 3 to 4 weeks around E3. Other than that, I think there's always Horizon came out Q1. You had
Again,
Uncharted.
wasn't that delayed though?
I don't know.
Yeah,
I mean,
but with Red Dead, because it was the only one to come out at the start of that summer, it completely dominated.
Took over everything.
Because everyone was like, "Well, here's a fantastic game. There is literally no good games coming for months. I'm going to dig into this." And I think part and parcel of that particular launch window helped to the success of the game, because even though people were probably going to buy it anyway, the fact that it got such crazy hype and it was released at the perfect lull for people playing video games, I think just worked out really well. So hopefully the same thing kind of happens with this one.
I think this one's got more. I think this one's got more hype behind it than that one.
True that.
Just because.
Did you ever play Revolver, the first one?
No, I've never played either of them. So
you'll like it.
My first Red Dead game. That's what David said. Again, if it's online, I'm all for it. I've never touched the GTA stories.
We should get Revolver, because Revolver wasn't Rockstar. It was I can't remember who made it, but it was still a really solid game on the PS2. But clearly enough of a good franchise to be made snatched up by Rockstar. But the sequel really kind of blew it out of the water. Yeah.
So that's your roundup. We had new announcements. We had delays. We had things not running on things, and more delays.
Yeah.
I feel like this is the generation of delays.
It wasn't a very, very uplifting news thing apart from Far Cry, was it?
Well, E3s are not that far away. Well, they did give us screenshots for I wonder if that's sorry for delaying it, but here's something cool.
Yeah, I bet you that was part and parcel of that packaging there. But I think everyone's kind of got their teeth grinding for E3. We all know this year is supposed to be something a little special. I mean, every year is a little special, but this year is the year, in my opinion, of VR, and I think it'd be really interesting to see what Sony comes out with as far as that's concerned, and also any VR announcements perhaps related to Scorpio too.
We'll see
if it's just available. I was thinking about this the other day. The issue right now with Oculus and Vive for a lot of people is just frankly that they have to have a PC powerful enough to run it. But if Scorpio is more powerful than a Pro,
it's the same as
then you might be able to just buy an Oculus headset the same as a PSVR headset, and I think that would be super neat.
Yes, so. I think that's what's happening, because they support right now. Xbox supports Oculus through a computer.
Yeah,
which is weird. We've talked about that before.
It would be really odd if they allowed support of PSVR.
They won't.
I mean, I'm saying
they won't. I guarantee it, because they got to sell their units, and they got to sell their games.
anti-prediction: PSVR will never run.
On Scorpio.
There you go.
Never run on a Microsoft platform.
Set your clocks.
Other than potentially PCs, but that's not technically Microsoft platform. That's a open platform. But anyways, this is the Level 2 podcast. That was your news, and we're gonna move on to the game spotlight, where we pick a game that we've been playing in the last week or two and kind of give you our thoughts about it.
Yeah.
So, what is yours for this week, Tom?
So, my game this week is a little indie gem that we got given a code for. So
full disclosure.
I'll preface that. But as you know, that doesn't change our opinions one way or the other.
Just thank you.
We always thank the developers, but we're
Yes.
still going to be honest. And it is a little guy called Rain World, which was part of the, I forget the name of it, but that sort of special like new game. Is it Play Collective?
Play Collective.
Yeah, the Play Collective. It's one of those guys, but we had gotten a code for it, so I stole it from Keegan. I was just like, I really want to play that game. Let me have it. And I've been playing it a little bit, and I have to say, it's really enjoyable, but also really hard. Which
Do you want to explain it? What is it?
yeah,
Let's start
absolutely.
with that.
So basically, Rain World, it starts off with purely pictures, no words, no explanation, no nothing as you're getting into the game. It's just like a picture, then another picture, then another picture, trying to tell the story of what's gone on in this universe. From what I can tell, you are a slug cat, and a slug cat is just exactly what it sounds like. It's a cat that has no back legs and instead has like a big just tail slug body. And
How do you know it didn't get in an accident?
although it looks more like a rabbit, I would call it a slug rabbit. But and slug cat, basically his family gets kidnapped by evil things, creatures, what have you, and
Bad people.
Yeah, and he's left all by himself. So you wake up with that situation in mind. Now, the things I do like about it is it's kind of like Abe's Odyssey / Flashback in terms of the fact that it plays on a room by room basis. So you go through to one room, assess the situation, make your best judgment, move on from there. The part where it gets kind of difficult and where the stuff really ramps up is that you also have food that you have to eat. You have to stay alive. And even though food is pretty plentiful, like wherever you are, there's something flying around, you can jump and eat it. And you have to like jump and like catch a bat and then chew it and stuff. But there are also these rainfalls, these monsoons that occur.
Is that where the name comes from? Do you
Yeah,
think?
exactly.
Okay.
So they start out, it's just like one little part of the screen has this kind of like downpour coming down. And if you get in that downpour, then you're fucked. So you got to hope you don't get trapped behind it. But then it gets like progressively more and more aggressive until the whole screen starts blurring up and shaking. And I was like hiding at one point. I was like, I'm gonna be fine. It's not touching me. It's gonna be great. And then it just got too crazy and I just fucking died. So what you're supposed to do is you're supposed to find shelter from the rain. So whenever the rain comes, you have to run and find shelter. So you're mixing up food, finding shelter from the rain, trying to find out where your family are, and also there's enemies too. But the way that it plays out is that you have no weapons, really. You have like a rock you can throw, but it doesn't do shit. And the enemies are kind of harsh. Like they're these giant, like so far anyway, they're like giant lizards. Like
How far do you think you are into the game?
not very far. But it's like I said, it's hard. Like I made it through like the first, I don't know, maybe 2 hours of it. But these lizard things are like they'll appear on the screen all of a sudden, and they can move from room to room too. So if you take like a pipe from one room to a different room, the fucking enemy can also jump in the same pipe, follow you, end up in the same room, and then you're still running to try and get away from it. But there's lots of like poles you can climb and like blocks you can stand on, and they're still going to try and get to you. Like they still have somewhat of a reach, but it's a lot of just running from enemies, trying to stay alive, but beautiful aesthetic. And there's a lot of kind of just weird little alien things going on. Like you can tell you're on an alien planet. It looks like there's a consistent alien that's following you around. His little eyeball just pops up and looks at you. There's lots of like little Lovecraftian tips here and there with some tentacles in the sea and things like that. But yeah, it's actually a really wonderful little game. Just for my taste buds, a little hard.
A little tough.
Because I am not the master of
Do you know how much
puzzles.
it is?
I was a 20 full price, I believe.
I think it was too.
But if you got it on pre-order at the time, it was a little
$20 for full price. Adult Swim made. Adult
Adult
Swim
Swim and Adult Swim are solid producers, man. Like
Yeah,
everything they've released lately has been really good. So yeah, check it out. It's super artsy. It's super interesting. If you're a fan of sad poems and cutesy animals, then imagine that in a game form. There you go.
Cool. So I've been playing, as you know, a St. Louis developer released their game yesterday
Yes, they did.
called Smugglecraft. Happy Badger Studio. So again, full disclosure, had the game early, was able to play it. We actually have the first 12 minutes of gameplay. There's going to be a little bloop that comes above our head somewhere on one of the sides. It's going to go bloop. And you can click that at the end of this video or now if you want to open up a new tab to watch the first 12 minutes of the game. But basically, Smugglecraft is... it starts out as Star Wars essentially. It's very pod racer influenced. So the story is you have to get a craft, you have to get a loan from this person to buy your first craft, and you got to pay that person back. And you can choose to do legal or illegal things when it comes to smuggling items. So different items give you more money or more parts based on kind of legality of it, which I really like that kind of, okay, I need X amount for the next week.
Is there any benefit and or punishment for doing it one way or the other?
There are cops that will come arrest you, and I've yet to figure out what the penalty is for that because I've not been caught by them yet. Knock on wood. I've done a few illegal things in that game so far, but it's really like it's a moral thing of like, do I do it the legal way and make half the money, or do I do it the illegal way and make it off quickly, but also risk being caught by cops?
Right.
So,
and if you get caught by cops, do you think it's like game over, or do you?
I don't think it's game over. I think there's probably some sort of penalty.
Gotcha.
Because it wouldn't make sense to do game over. I wonder if it just takes a different tree branch that you then have to pay something else or do something else to get on the good graces of them again. I don't know how it works 100%. But what's really cool, if you're a fan of the pod racer on the N64 game, that's very much what it looks like. And the things that caught me the most was, one, that story. I kind of didn't really expect there to be. It's literally a hovercraft. It's not, I say pod, but it's a hovercraft, which is where Smugglecraft came from. It's a smuggle hovercraft. Clever name.
I'm happy that they did it for that reason, and not because it sounds like Minecraft. Because that's what I initially thought when I heard that name, Smugglecraft. I was like, okay, another Minecraft.
Nope.
But no, it's uncraft related. There is some crafting elements, but it's
so
not
you have
like,
the crafting where that comes in is you can upgrade your ship. So one of the first things I did when I got the money was I bought the biggest engine I could, and my thing now handles for shit because big engines doesn't lots of power, not so good steering.
What do you call it? Yeah.
But they have I was kind of blown away by the customization option. So you have the body of the ship, and again, each thing has its own stats. You have bodies, you have engines, you have exhausts, you have shields, you have what are they called? Like stabilizers, I guess is the word. Help
So
you
is there
turn better.
weapons in the game?
Not that I've found.
Oh, okay.
Well, because you can take damage to things.
Oh, okay.
So there's like spikes, and
Like
then the cops hit you, and all that kind of stuff. And every map is procedurally generated. And they actually showed me kind of how the thing, or there's a video. I don't know if they showed it to me or if there was a video I watched that they sent where they show the map going do 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 and like doing the building, and it's really cool. With that, the textures are not all there. It's a very simple looking game. But the gameplay, I've always been a gameplay over graphics guy, as you know, and the gameplay has got me excited. I can't wait to play. I couldn't play multiplayer online because, again, we had it early, so the servers weren't. They had to do a patch to get the servers working. The PC version was working, but I don't have a PC that I wanted to play it on because I couldn't control that thing without a controller. I don't think I have a PC, but it'd be hard to control it. But $15 on PlayStation, console exclusive, and then it's also on PC, as I said. I love those guys. I met them last year at Wizard World St. Louis, and then at Indie PopCon, met them again, interviewed them. It'll be another bloop bloop of those if I'm good. We'll see how good I am tonight when we go to edit this.
Because we actually had members of that team that were on the panel that we recorded at WizCon this year. So if you watched any of our panel talks with the Making Games in St. Louis and the How to Indie panel talks.
So TJ is still a Happy Badger. Carol Mertz was with them at one point, and then she left, so she helped make a little bit of the game. But this was their first console game ever, and I have to say it turned out for a team of I want to say like 8 people, no more than 10. It turned out very well. I was very kind of surprised at it. Like, it's a lot of fun. The first time I saw it, I was kind of confused. It's one of those games, like I said, because I think it's just because the look of it was. I immediately thought of Pod Racer, but it wasn't. The graphics weren't all there, so I was like, I don't know if this is an early build or not.
Don't judge it by the trailer, because the trailer that went up is okay. It's in-game footage of the game playing, which is, I always say is I would prefer that most of the time than an actual trailer. But there's no kind of like
explanation of what's being shown.
Anything that says like, hey, this is this, and this is this, and this is that. So I would say don't judge it based off the trailer. Definitely do try and find some gameplay footage online.
There's some on our channel.
Or there's some there. Or you could, actually do a little inkling of research into what the game is about and ask some. If you
go to Happy Badger, I think it's happybadger.com or smugglecraft.com will take you to the game. But I'm super excited for those guys. We've been following them now since I met them last year. So it's been over a year. They they're excited, I'm sure, to get out the door finally.
Yeah.
It'll be interesting to see how it goes, but it's a cool little game, and I'm not just saying that because we got the key, because we know the developers. It's an interesting game, and I will find myself playing it, especially with online matches. If my only concern is it being an indie game, how many people are going to be playing online?
Right.
How long will matchmaking take? That kind of stuff.
But there's a lot of people that enjoy that type of that racing.
But you can couch
style.
co-op as well too. So that's the other thing. They have both couch and online and the story mode.
How many couch co-op players?
4-player local, and then 8 online.
So you could play it like an old school Mario Kart if you really wanted.
That's
to.
what it reminded me of. I kind of
on the TV.
I kind of wish they had
Can't see the
weapons.
screen.
Kind of wish they had weapons like Mario Kart style.
Yeah,
I could see this.
So it's interesting.
I could see this expanding into more. Maybe I'm just mistaken. I just didn't see them. That could be the case. But I highly recommend it. Pick it up. Like I said, $15. I'm enjoying my time with it, and there will be more video footage on our channel of it because we want to help those guys out. They're local developers, but
they're
the
good
game
guys.
is good.
We'd like to help them. So even though, like Keegan said, we obviously have somewhat of a tie-in to this game, do check it out. Do take a look at it. Make your own decision. We're not saying go out and buy it. We're just saying that from what we've seen and what we've played so far,
it's worth checking out,
and it's at the very least worth your attention. So make your own mind up.
So that's our recommendations for the game. That is our game spotlight. With that, let's go ahead and move into the bonus level. And as you guys saw earlier, if you had joined us, if you're still here, Tom came up with a bonus
On the fly.
level.
That's how we do shit around level 2. 4K versus 60 frames. I think this is an interesting debate because me personally, I can't tell the fucking difference between 30 and 60 frames.
I can.
And I think it's because I'm old.
Yeah.
I think it's like one of those things, like, you know, where when you get old and you can't hear like a certain sound level, so the
you're an
kids
old
will play
fart.
one on the app, and then you're just like, I can't hear it, sonny. No, I feel like it's a little bit like that for
Do I
me.
need to get your cane, Tom, when we're done recording?
Maybe. But I don't notice it. And I don't know if I ever will.
So the question I would have is, do you know what games run in 60 versus not?
No, because I don't notice it.
Because, so, the one we've played that I know you've played that runs in 60 for a fact is Rocket League. Rocket League is 60 frames per second.
Yeah, and I couldn't tell the difference between that and anything else I play.
In a game like that, is very important to run at 60 frames per second because of the speed and movement. So a lot of times where 60 is an advantage is a fast-moving game. So racing games tend to have them. First-person shooters tend to have it. Other than that, you really don't necessarily need it. The 60 versus 4K, a lot of it comes down to, do you have a 4K TV?
Well, yeah, that's a
like,
big part of that debate. Obviously, I don't have a 4K, but I would say that knowing that I will at some point have a 4K television, I would rather the game run at 4K so that I can be visually blown away, because I've seen and I can recognize the difference between 1080 and 4K. And honestly, I wasn't too sure about that. Like, I can't do it between 720 and 1080. I can't do it. Damn. Like, I could do it between 420.
I mean, I'm sure I should, you know. 480.
Yeah, that.
Yeah. I think it's 420. 420 blaze it. But I think it's interesting because I do video production. So, like, I work in frame rates and I work in all this kind of stuff a lot of the times at different resolutions. So when I used to do a lot of my concert stuff, when we did Jumbotron work, most Jumbotrons are not HD. Most of them are 480. If you're lucky, you'll get a 720. If you're lucky. Those are expensive as balls. If you're real expensive festival to have a 4K one, but those are few and far between. So it was really interesting for me taking footage that was shot in 1080, seeing it on my screen, exporting it, sending it out to the AV people to put it up on the Jumbotron, being down in the pit, looking up at that same footage up on a Jumbotron and noticeably seeing a degrade, even if it was 480 or if it's 720. Because I had been working with that footage so much, I knew what it looked like, I knew colors and all that kind of stuff, and kind of the areas that were problems, areas that were crisp. And I noticed it a lot more with that. 4K is a fantastic display. If you've never seen a true, and I'm not talking Netflix, I'm talking true 4K content.
A lot of people that think they're watching streaming services in 4K,
it's not
you're
4K.
not watching streaming for. This is a weird technological thing that we share here, is that if you think about your internet connection, unless you're running like Google Fiber or something, it's really unlikely that you're running it at a full 4K. You kind of have to have it downloaded to experience it. Now, they do make those 4K DVDs now. Not DVDs, but 4K, I guess, 4K Ds? What the hell do you even call them?
They're
4K Blu-rays.
They're 4K Blu-rays. Their DVD can't do 4K. DVDs are standard definition.
I'm just trying terminology-wise because the box just says 4K Ultra on it. But they're black.
They're
boxes.
Ultra HD.
Yeah, Ultra HD. They're
what they officially called
little
it.
black boxes. I've seen a lot more of them showing up in random stores. You know, like, and they're obviously taking over Blu-ray. And I feel like Blu-ray never really had much of a long time in the sun. So
according to Google, Netflix says 15 megabits per second. Korea, the country of Korea, says 32 megabits per second on 30 frames per second and 60 frames per second, respectively.
Yeah.
For true 4K. And that's using X265, which is a fancy way of doing 264, which is more compressed. I'm not going to get into it because I can get all nerdy with it. But to give you an idea, your upload is probably, mine's 5.
Mine's like 5, 6 maybe.
So most people potentially have, like my parents have 15-15. They have 15 up, 15 down, or 30-30 is another common one. So if you have that, you potentially could.
Depends where you live. Depends where you live.
Yeah, but
if you live in the sticks like we do, I mean, we're St. Louis, so we're not sticky, but we're pretty sticky. We're in Midwest, so.
But like my parents live in New York, so they have
charter is the best we can do here, and no knock on them.
But getting back to the question of 4K versus 60, I prefer racing games to be 1080p 60 frames per second because I notice a difference when it comes to smoothness, to going into the corners, the feeling of speed makes a world of difference. Versus 4K 30, I would notice it more being 30 frames per second at a higher resolution because it's a higher resolution and it's less frame rate. But like every other game, like Ratchet and Clank, play that in 30 4K. That would look fantastic. Like, I don't have an issue with that, but I think for shooting and for any fast-moving games, I'd want to have 60. I'd prefer 1080 60.
For you, it's game dependent.
Yes.
Yeah.
There's no, because I don't think there's a definitive answer to this.
No.
Because it's all personal preference. Like you
for
said,
sure. It's
you
an
can't
opinion,
see, you can't, or not that you can't see, but you can't tell the difference. Like to me, with like colorblind modes, like HDR probably doesn't mean much to me. I've not seen HDR live yet. I've never had the experience with it, but I have a feeling that a lot of the times, like the HDR enhancements won't do much for me because I'm colorblind.
Well, isn't HDR, doesn't that affect things like light rays and stuff as well, though?
It does. So, I mean, I'll notice it, but it also gives you a wider color gamut. So if I can't see that
won't notice a portion of it.
If I can't see that wider color gamut, the greens are still the same color green.
Yeah.
So keep that in mind when HDR and stuff like that. So it all comes down to kind of what you can see, because the 60 frame per second thing, like I said, from a smoothness is,
I don't know,
is needed.
I think if I could tell, I would care, but I just can't, and I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's just old eyes or what, but I just like whenever I'm playing one of those games, I can never tell the difference.
Here's a dumb question.
There's some people that just swear down that like they can tell the difference between like 60 and 50.
Yeah, I can't tell that.
You know what
I mean, you kind of can. Can you see? You probably can't see difference then, because you grew up in the UK. Can you tell a difference between UK television, not content-wise, but visually, between American television? Because UK...
Only in terms of the sheen that American television puts over itself.
Because UK television...
more glossy.
UK television is shot in 50. It's either 25 or 50. In the US, it's 24, 30, or 60.
I never knew.
So, like Sonic in the UK is quicker than Sonic in America.
Yeah.
Because it's less frames to make him move. So he moves quicker, technically. You can finish the stages quicker.
Interesting.
So if you're speedrunning, you want the UK version. Okay. It also makes it a little bit more jittery when he's moving quick, though, because there's less frames to fill in.
Right.
And that's where you start noticing it. That's where speed becomes an issue. So let's do an example of you. Remember Dying Light when we jumped off the thing? So use that as an example. You jump off, you're falling down. If you're falling at 60 frames per second, every second you're getting a new image. And it's going to look smooth because your eyes are used to seeing that. If you're dropping down at 30 frames per second, it'll still be smooth, but there's what's called motion blur. So those frames, instead of being crisp, will kind of blend and bleed together. So it's a lot more of a blur effect than it would be.
Doesn't blur sometimes simulate the speed better, though? Because to our eyes, isn't it normally a blur when something goes fast?
Yep. So that's kind of where it comes into, is that's why the films are still 24 for the most part, because you're used to the cinematic blur look. But
didn't people get sick the first time they did
The Hobbit?
The Hobbit.
They did 48, I think.
Yeah, and they said that it looked way better. People got sick because their eyes couldn't like refresh it at the normal pace. That's interesting, isn't it? How like people can just get thrown off by something.
Yeah, it's because I remember the first time I saw a higher refresh rate on a TV. It was a soap opera at my friend's house. His mom was watching it, and they had a real nice TV. And I was like, "Oh, what is it?" And his dad explained to me what the refresh rate was, like 240 or something, like something. I had a 60 at that point. So we're well above that. We're 4 times above that. And I remember going, that looks super realistic, like to the point where it looked fake.
I remember that. I remember the same feeling because me and Jess had this like older Sony TV for a long time, and then we went out and bought this fancy, like it was a Vizio, it wasn't that fancy, but we bought a fancy
Vizio's
TV.
a nice brand.
And yeah, the first thing that when we turned it on and we watched, it was something like Friends or something, but you know, something where you're used to having that kind of like sitcom shine or whatever, and then we were just like, holy fuck, this looks like it was recorded with a camcorder. Like it just like everyone looks like real people as opposed to being like TV people. I don't know a better way to describe it than that.
They pop a little bit more.
Yeah, I had to actually twiddle with the settings and put it back to like movie mode because it was fucking with my head. I think I'd be okay now because I'm adjusted to it. But
that's the other thing.
Oh man,
that's the other thing. I'd love to take somebody who has grown up with the 60 frames per second and then show them something that's not 60 frames and be like, so what do you think? And they would be like, that's why I think it's more important a lot to the younger generation or people like me who work in video and understand kind of, I can see the difference in frame rate. I can see the difference in resolution. When I say I can see the difference, I'm not like, I can't point to video and be like, that's 1080, that's 720. But a lot of times there's key hints to what is what. And the other thing too is like, for video games, it's more important. But if you're streaming something, it's not as important because things are, like we talked about with 4K streaming, it's so compressed, it doesn't matter. But video games, I think it's more important with Blu-rays. And I'm excited because Blu-rays now have the ability, they used to be 50 gigabytes per disc. They then did dual layer, which takes them to 100. They are now currently working on 200 gigabyte Blu-ray discs. And that makes me excited because think about the amount of data you can put on there. And as long as the hardware can run that data quick enough, like, you're in heaven. Yeah. We're going to have long-ass load screens, but the quality and the sheen, the shine, the resolution you put into something like that is amazing. And
I always wondered, this is sidetracking a little bit from our topic, but still kind of on it. You know when you see those, like, real-life mods of PC games like GTA 5 and stuff, like
those fry your computer pretty quickly.
Yeah, but they tweak it to the point where everything looks super hyper realistic. Like if that is capable, if that's capable of being a thing that happens, why aren't we seeing that more from the AAA developers that make those?
Because they got to make it work on multiple platforms.
Yeah,
so it's going back to like when we talked earlier with PS4 Pro, PS4 Scorpio, and Xbox One. Like that will look good on a high-end PC because they have.
So it only looks as good as the worst console it's on.
Yes,
right.
Your best is your weakest link or something like that. Whatever the saying is, you're as good as your weakest link.
Yeah.
So on a high-end PC that has a Titan graphics card that has a i7 5.0 overclocked, like yes, that's got the CPU, it's got the GPU to run it, and then obviously I'm assuming they have RAM and all that kind of stuff in there. Versus the console generation that. The console graphics cards are, as we saw from the Destiny thing, is fairly on point with PCs. Obviously, PCs upgrade quicker because they come out quicker, and then consoles take a little bit longer to do it again, which is why I think Microsoft and Sony want to get out of the every 5 to 7 years thing. I won't get out of that for any time soon, I don't think, just because money. But I can understand why they want to do it, to keep up with that, because things are changing so quickly.
Yeah.
The big thing, though, is CPU. And CPUs are expensive. So I've been looking at building a PC rig, and the two biggest costs, one is graphics card. The graphics card is $600 that I'm looking at, $600-700. And that is one of the top-end graphics cards you get. The CPU can run you anywhere from $100 to $500, depending on it. So think about putting that into, granted, that's consumer price, but say Sony gets that graphics card for $300. That's already the cost of the console. Sony can get that CPU for $150. Well, now you're already at $550. They got to eat a chunk of change somewhere. Yeah. Granted, they probably get it way less than that.
Well, I think when consoles were initially released, most of them are released at a loss anyway, on the basis of the fact that they're not selling the consoles; they're selling the games.
PS4 or PS3 was not sold at a loss initially. That's why it was the side prices was.
Yeah, it's a fucking $1 billion.
Yeah, that's why because if they did, they would have. That's why they didn't do it any lower because it would have been a loss.
Yeah, I think
they ended up losing in the end because nobody bought it.
Yeah, but if you look at even like smartphones and things like that, the thing that drives a lot of the continued purchase and usage of those devices are the apps and the things that are tied to them.
Mm-hmm.
So I think there's a certain thing to be said for trying to at least price your console semi-appropriately for the technology that's in it and waiting for technology to get cheaper. But also, like the games are really why people are going to hang around.
And that's why I think it'll be easier for Sony and Microsoft to say, hey, instead of trying to make this thing last 7 years, if we only have to make it last 3 years
they
or
could
2
also
years,
just make the fucking things modular.
See, but the issue you have with that is then why not buy a PC at that point?
Because it's less work.
It's the same thing. It's all a console is a prepackaged PC.
If they could find a way to make it completely user friendly in terms of with the PC, you have to know a little bit about a little bit in order to get in there and unplug things the right way and whatever. So I mean, if they could,
you'd have to do that with the console. So say you're replacing your graphics card in a console versus a PC, you have to know where the graphics card plugs in. You have to know where the power plugs in. You pull that out, plug it back in. Same thing with PC. You have to know where the graphics card plugs in. You have to know where the power plugs in.
But I'm saying that they should work on a way to make it so that it's not like you don't have to fuck around with a motherboard or a logic board and unscrew this and unscrew that. Like you could just like old school RAM, you just literally put it in the slot and you're good. Like even if they have to make the graphics cards and the whatever else is like change their shape and style to fit this method.
They would never do that because they sell more on PCs.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what it comes down to.
But I think if you gave the gamers that option, instead of saying trade in your old console you bought 3 years ago and pay another $400 for a new one, or pay $200 for this graphics card, you could sell your old graphics card back to us for $100 and then just do that. Then there would be a market there. The problem is that it's not something that you could.
But it's not. I don't think it's that big of a market. That's the other thing from business perspective is how big is that versus the effort.
You got to build it. You got to be brave. You got to get people on board. It's not something that would happen overnight, but it's something I'd like to see.
Oh, I agree. But I'm playing again devil's advocate of from a business perspective. If say there's 50 million PS4s out there right now. Say 10% of those people want to do that upgrade, and I think that's a generous number. 10% would care about doing the upgrade. That's 5 million people. PC market. How many gaming PCs do you think get sold in a month?
I literally have no idea.
Anywhere from 300 to 400,000. Keep that in mind. So that's why it would never. They would never conform a graphics card to a console. The console would have to conform to the graphics card.
Yeah,
just because the market's bigger. It's the whole Microsoft Apple debate where more things conform to Microsoft because of the bigger one. Apple makes more money because they have a higher profit margin. So that's the thing. Yeah.
Use.
I mean that's what those are the things you got to keep in mind with this. I agree 100% with you that I would love to see that happen, but those are the roadblocks to make that happen.
Dream, yeah.
Yes.
Oh well.
Unless Microsoft comes out and says, "Hey,
guy can dream, can he?"
I could see it potentially now that we're getting to where external graphics cards are a thing. Like you're saying, if they can make a chassis and pop a chassis in and out, that's a different story. But the problem you have with that is you still have to plug it in somewhere.
Well, they
inside
made
machine.
that modular phone, didn't they, for a while? I don't think it ever got released.
I don't think
it looked like a box of a bunch of Legos all just stuck together. It was like, oh, if you want a better camera, you literally just take the camera out and pop a new one on. It was all blocks.
The problem you have with that is you have to make sure that the thing phone blocks. You have to make sure that the CPU you have can work with GPU you have, and the power supply can support both of those.
Yeah.
So that's it. You say it's easy to pop things in and out, but there's so many things that are involved in making sure it functions correctly that because you also then have to download drivers for the graphics card that you put in there. Like you can't pre-download those.
It's not user friendly.
No, there's no way. I don't want to say there's no way, but it's really hard to make it user friendly. But I would love if they did because I think, like you said, I would gladly, instead of buying a PS4 Pro, I would have spent $100 and upgraded the graphics card.
Well, I wonder
GPU
if they did.
CPU.
I wonder if that's what they were kind of looking at doing with the Steam machine. Do you remember the Steam machine? Yeah, because that never really took off though. But the idea was there that they wanted it to be a PC.
I think the controllers
console was a piece of shit, but they were trying to because let's
be honest,
corner the console market.
A PlayStation and an Xbox is a PC. They're built on 86 architecture. They are a PC, but they are a very well-crafted PC, very particular. It's very much the Apple mentality of this is the graphics card, this is the chipset, and we know it's going to work. Versus when you start bringing other things in.
The optimization is all there already. And you don't have to think about
so if you upgrade a graphics card, well, what does that do to everything else?
Yeah.
So that's the only thing to keep in mind. Again, I'm like you. I would love to see that happen, but I don't think we will.
Okay.
Anytime soon, at least.
So getting back to the original part of the debate, I guess, guys, the question is, would you prefer in your games for it to run at 4K, at 30. Let's say 30, or would you prefer it to be 1080, running at 60? So, I mean, when you're playing the game, which is more important to you? And let's pretend in this hypothetical that you have a 4K TV, so you can actually experience it in 4K. So there you go.
That's the Level 2 Podcast.
Yeah.
This is the Level 2 Podcast. We are a weekly podcast show that airs every Tuesday on audio, every Tuesday evening on audio, and every Wednesday morning on video on level2gamers.com. If you want to catch us, you can catch us on social media at Level2GamersSTL, on Twitter, on Instagram, Level2GamersSTL, Facebook, Level2GamersSTL. You can support us on Patreon, patreon.com/Level2GamersSTL.
Let's talk about that for a second, because Patreon is, if you don't know what that is, and some people don't, it's basically just a way for you to support an artist that you enjoy by giving a minimal amount of money in a sort of a
minimum's $1, and you can give as much as you need.
Yeah, $1 to whatever you want to. And there's a lot of artists that make their entire living off of this. I can think of Amanda Palmer is a perfect example. Amanda Palmer.
I thought you were going to say Amanda Bynes. I don't know why you thought you were going to say Amanda Bynes. I don't think she does either.
But Amanda Palmer, she's a wonderful singer. If you've never checked her out, she wrote a book called The Art of Asking, and because she used to be one of those people that stood up in the street and did like a mime, and they would like reach down with like a bowl of money or whatever. And there's this great TED talk with Amanda Palmer where she talks about, she had to learn to kind of overcome her fear of asking people for something. And it is weird. It's weird to ask people for help, because we're pretty self-sufficient for the most. We both have jobs. It's not like we are not paying towards what we're doing. Developers give us keys, like we have, but the stuff that we really need, the stuff we need to go to like next level, like, okay, now those guys look like the Kind of Funny crew, or the
their
IGN
crew. Their studio's a few $100,000, which obviously they're the biggest one out there,
right?
But
just for us, like, it's just stuff like, oh man, it'd be nice to have a new camera.
Yeah, new camera. It would be nice. We've talked about potentially having like walls in the studio and have like a true set, like stuff like that. Because I mean, you can tell there's a green screen behind us. You can't tell, but it's changing behind us.
Green?
I mean, to them, it's not. I mean, watch me disable it right there. It's green. Boop. Yep. But yeah, it's little things like that. But it's one of those things where we're happy with where we are. But to, like Tom said, to get to the next portion of what we want to do, it does help if you help us financially, because this ain't cheap to do a lot of this.
And we know that, considering that we have somewhat, like, at time of recording, just over the 900 subscriber mark, but we also are very acutely aware that our videos only get anywhere from 10 to, let's say, 200 views, depending on what it is and where it ended up at. Most regularly, I'd say the VR ones get like 50 views, and podcasts get anywhere from 10 to 30, and Let's Plays get 10 to 20. So we're acutely aware of that, despite the amount of subscribers. But the more we can fancy this shit up, like the better quality we can make the camera, the better quality we can make the studio, the more access we have to developers, the more access we have to conferences, the more we can start turning this into something that is spectacular. And I think that if you've watched us for as long as you hopefully have at this point, or if you just are genuinely interested in seeing 2 years worth of going from nothing to something, skim back a couple videos.
Go watch the Stranded Deep series, which was our very first one. Then I would say jump to like the Jordan era, as we'll call it, the Jordan era, the bites, all that kind of stuff, and then to where we are now. It's just like
you can see the evolution. You can see like that we've put time and money and effort into something like this, and we don't ask to beg. We don't we don't ask to because we absolutely have to have it. It's just if you can spare it, it's really cool.
It's really helpful.
Yeah, it just $1, And again, you don't have to do it. We never will like actually be like, oh please donate to us. But I just wanted to explain it, because some people have no fucking idea what that is, and we always go, yeah, you can support us on Patreon. Everyone's like, what the fuck is Patreon? And you guys can't be bothered to Google it, so I just Googled it for you, basically. So if you want to help. Otherwise, if you want something for your money, And there is stuff you get with Patreon, but if you want something cool for your
Merch.
money, then go check out the merch page.
Go to merch.level2gamers.com because there's no STL on that one.
And we've been working on some new designs. Our animator Eric is heavy at work trying to put some awesome shit together for us soon as well. So yeah, I just wanted to go on a small tangent there. Is that okay?
No.
Well, too late. I did it.
We talked about this. I don't give a shit. I mean, I do.
Yeah,
it's one of the.
I don't, and I do. Like,
yeah.
Let's be honest. We want this to be our full-time job at some point.
We've never hid that at all.
We've never hid that.
But we also understand that it's going to take time to get, and time, money, and effort to get there.
Yeah,
that's the thing.
And we talk about how our channel is not just a video game channel. It's actually going to be more than that. But it's. I don't know. It's just it's almost like a channel for how to make a channel.
You're growing with us. Yeah. I mean, when we are not afraid to pull behind the curtains and show you some stuff. So we're a channel that does video games, but honestly, if we'd have been, I know we've been kind of recording since the beginning of doing this, but I almost feel like there would be an interesting documentary to be made out of someone that went from like literally like nothing on YouTube to try and get to. Well, it was funny last night. So. As we said earlier, the podcast that we were on is actually now live as the time of recording this, so you'll have it live because it went up yesterday because we're recording the day before. Time warp.
I'll rip it and upload it for you guys on our channel.
But it's weird because hearing both Bobby and Johnny talk about us as like you guys have done really well, and it's like we think about these kind of things, but again, you talked about last night how I don't look at numbers. I mean, I look at numbers. I can't say I don't look at numbers because that's not true. Everybody looks at numbers. But I look at the things we've done more than I look at the number of people we have.
Experiences.
So, yeah, we talk about, I mean, last night we talked about interviewing Kevin Conroy. We talked about getting a PSVR, going to Indie PopCon, going to Wizard World, getting press passes, like stuff that 2 years ago was not even an option. And it's
just getting games from developers is like a massive difference
keys.
For us.
It's 100% down to you guys. Like, I still firmly believe we would still be hanging out. We'd still be doing these things. But it's because of you guys that we get to take it to the next level and bring the content hopefully you enjoy and you want more of. And we firmly believe that. And we don't pander to everybody's request because that would not be good because people like play Minecraft. I'm like, no, I don't like Minecraft. Or play that. No, I'm not going to play that because you want me to. I'm going to play games I enjoy.
We try and create content that we would enjoy watching ourselves.
But I will also say when we do that, but we also do look at things of like VR is doing well, or Star Wars did well for us last year, or fucking Rory McIlroy golf did well that one day. Like,
fucking Rory McIlroy.
So things like that, we're like, okay, we are aware that did well for us. Okay, maybe we should do that again versus saying let's do all Rory McIlroy now because it did well. Like we're not going to change the whole channel to a golf channel. That's probably copywritten because it's a real television channel.
Welcome to the golf and VR channel.
The golf basement. That's when we bring Brad Rozier on.
Yeah.
That's we bring him in.
He needs to make a good goddamn golf VR game. Anyway.
Yeah.
Tangents upon tangents.
Anyways.
So I just wanted to say that. And of course, I really want to highlight as well here that podcasting is our favorite part of what we do for the most part. Like we love playing games. We love talking about games while we play games. We love VR to death. It's so fun. But actually sitting here and talking to you, I think I can say is probably our favorite thing to do.
It's definitely mine.
And so we want to hopefully do more of that too. And this is always a pleasure, and we appreciate any second of time that you can stick around and watch us.
And Tom hinted at it last week, and a little bit ago, but we have some things, and I feel like we say this every 3 to 6 months, but we have some things that we're tweaking and we're ready to reveal. Not quite yet, but there are some things coming that I think will make level 2 more of what we are.
Yeah.
I mean, we're not changing. We're not doing a complete overhaul like we did last year.
Slowly finding our voice and starting to focus on the things we're best at. So I'll leave it at that, I think. But, thanks again, especially for the podcasters at home that are listening, and for the vidcasters, because honestly, we don't play to the camera a whole lot. So if you're watching us, then I almost feel a little bit sorry for you because we're just two sad sacks here in front of a table. But it's definitely more interesting to listen to our voices. But we're going to make a valiant attempt, I think, to try and be more like cinematic.
Hi.
But then you feel like you let the poor audio guys out of
audio
it.
guys. Here, I'm gonna do one of those things where you say what you're doing. I am currently waving to the camera so the audio people knows what's going on.
Yeah, let's not
I'm
do
now
that
looking
all
at
the time.
Tom as he talks.
Because, like, you know, with the PS VR aim controller, like, I feel like the audio guys we explained it a little bit, but they missed out on the visuals for that. So.
Yeah.
Anyway, wherever you're listening to us from, whether
or
it's
watching.
iTunes or Stitcher, and if you're watching on YouTube or
Let us know you guys watch and or listen, because we have ways to get stats, but not really.
Yeah.
So let us know about that, and we enjoy, like Tom said, the podcast and all this kind of stuff, and I love doing this wholeheartedly, and it's fun. Like today, we don't have a topic. Like, oh shit, that's literally how we run sometimes.
Hey, it worked.
But we
got there.
We figure it out.
Skin of your teeth. That's how you do it.
But this is the Level 2 podcast, official Level 2 podcast, episode 27. Thank you guys for hanging out with us. You guys are the best. You guys are the reasons we do this. You guys have made things happen that could not have happened otherwise.
We love
and
you.
we want to say thank you, and we love you, and mwah. How's that?
For those of you listening, Keegan just kissed you.
Mwah.
He kissed you, not me. I'd like to point out. But yeah, thanks a lot, guys, and as always,
Welcome to the second level. Bye.
It ain't no game, but they saying welcome to the second level.